very good evening and welcome back. This is Press Roundtable. Like I told you earlier, is a convergence of media practitioners who dissect current news and current affairs. And so this beautiful evening, we have a media practitioner. As a matter of fact, is a veteran in the system. He is here to do justice to the program, and I have in the person of Kingsley Chimezie Izejubi. You're very good evening. You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I'm trying to cope with the hardship.
All right. All right. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, if in case you're just tuning in, this is Press Roundtable on Atlantic Television Network, and like I told you, this is my guest. My guest is here, Mr. Kingsley Chimezie Izejubi is right here to do justice to this program. And first, we are starting with the presidency. But the presidency has, again on Sunday, warned the Nigerian Labour Congress not to embark on its two-day nationwide protest against the rising cost of living in the country. Also, the police warned against disruption of commercial activities during the protest. The special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, and the police handed down the warnings as 65 civil society groups on Sunday pulled out of the planned demonstration, warning against its possible hijack, arguing that it could worsen the deteriorating situation. The NLC President Joe Ajero had insisted in a statement on Sunday that the protest would be held on Tuesday and Wednesday as planned. And on February 16, the NLC announced the nationwide protest scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday over the alleged government's failure to implement agreements reached between both parties on October 2, 2023. And that's following the removal of the fuel subsidy. The decision followed the conclusion of a 14-day ultimatum issued to the federal government to implement measures against the widespread hardship. But addressing the NLC's decision to proceed with the protest, despite entreaties from various agencies and groups, Onanuga, in an interview with a media crew, described this as a breach of the law and an illegal undertaking. He said the Attorney General has written the NLC's lawyer that the protest is illegal, so they are breaching a court order if they want to go on with the protest. And now he added that we are not aware of any plans to disrupt the protest, but what we can confirm is that the NLC are breaching an extant rule by a competent court that they should not go on protest. The protest itself is illegal, so the NLC should bear that in mind. Now, warning the NLC on its course of action, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Adegoke Fayode, said the command would not condone any form of violence during the planned protest. In another development, then we have the marine workers. They also threatened to shut seaport for NLC protests. And then it reads that the Marine Workers Union of Nigeria said it will join the nationwide protest being organized by the Nigerian Labour Congress. It was said that the move was necessary following the directive of the NLC that its affiliate members across the nation should strictly comply. A media report has it that on February 16, the NLC announced a nationwide protest scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday over the alleged government's failure to implement agreements reached between the both parties on October 2, 2023, following the removal of the fuel subsidy. I don't know if you're following this story. Now here it said that the decision followed the conclusion of a 14-day ultimatum issued by the federal government to implement measures against the widespread hardship. Now we are all talking about the mass protests because you know what is going on in the country, and these are the labor union. They said they want to engage in this mass protest, and a lot of people. The presidency now wants that they shouldn't protest. You know, they issue warning because because, of course, you know the implication of protesting, and then even the maritime workers, they say they want to shut down the seaport. So if you listen to the stories, you know that this is going to really, our economy is threatened. So what can you say about all these whole things that is actually, you know, going on now in the country as a journalist and a veteran in the, of course?
Well, I think that it should be federal government. Federal government should have integrity. Federal government should keep to its words. If you give a promise to the labor, implement the promise that you made to labor. Because when that promise was made, it was not at a gunpoint. It was a product of deliberation, overnight deliberation. You agreed, you signed, you came out to the media, and then you addressed journalists and said that both government and the media and the labor has come to an agreement, and this is what we are going to do. And you give your word that you are going to do. 4 or 5 months down the line, not even an item, or not about 90% of what was contained in the agreement have not been done. And now labor wants to go and protest to say, you promised us this and you are not giving it to us. Now look at it. People are dying of hunger. There is a lot of hardship in the land. Cooking gas is 1,500. Petrol is 600, 700. In some places, 1,000. Everything seems to be skyrocketing. Yet the pay of the worker is still the same. No job anywhere, and things like that. And then people want to protest. You say no, they should not protest. I think that what federal government is doing will be counterproductive. See, you cannot beat a child and ask a child not to cry. It's just that basic. The labor workers who go to work on daily basis know how much they used to spend on transport. They know how much they are spending now. They know how much they used to buy a bag of rice before. They know how much it is now. So if you are saying that they should not protest, that things are becoming tougher for them, I wonder what else you want them to do.
Now that means that they need to take proactive measures, because if you ask me not to cry, if you beat me and say that I shouldn't cry.
The only way labor should not protest is that federal government should bend down, roll up its sleeves, and begin to implement some
What
of
the agreement.
The agreement. I'm here to see a situation where in this country, when we will have government officials who are sensitive to the plight of the people, government officials who are alive to their responsibilities. See, you don't have to do a flag off of a project before you carry it out. You can just, you can do needs assessment. You can ask community to send in what they need, and then there's no need for a flag off. There is not even need for a commissioning ceremony. Just go ahead and do what you need to do. And I can bet you that when you do what you need to do for the people, you will see people that begin to sing your praises. So when you do what you are supposed to do for the workers, for instance, you will not hear we are going to strike or we are protesting. Protest or strike is the last resort, to the best of my knowledge. And then the danger in not allowing workers to protest or to go on strike is that you will have workers who are in the offices but are not producing anything. So at the end of the day, you pay them money, they sit there in the office, they do their job grudgingly, and I can bet you, any job that is done grudgingly will always have a catastrophic ending. So federal government should just allow workers to express themselves, and then look at the things that workers are saying. If there are things that federal government can do, federal government should man up enough and do what they have promised they will do. And at the time of signing the agreement and now, the implementation is no longer feasible now. I think that federal government should be humble enough to apologize to workers, to apologize to Nigerians, and ask for opportunity to reach another agreement. But this grandstanding of having to use the court to shut labor down and having to use police to threaten them not to go on strike will not solve the problem.
I think it's yes, but because if if they want them to do something and they don't want them to protest, I think now they have to move into action to make sure that they settle their demands
if you don't want them
and
to
the
protest,
agreement.
yes.
But now another key thing is that because something is looming. Now the maritime workers, they said they have to shut down the seaport. And remember the role that they play into the economy, both the revenues and all of that. Now if they shut down the seaport, what is left of Nigeria?
If the government is serious, the government will not allow that to happen. The federal government, over time, starting from the immediate past administration, has shown itself to be anti-workers government. You don't give the workers what is due them. They want to go on strike, you either use court order or you send police after them. Those who protested, in fact, protest in Nigeria has become a crime under this, both this present and immediate past administration. Now, for a government that has crisis on his hands, hunger is everywhere, hardship is everywhere, and then one of your major sources of revenue is about to be shut down. I think that what government should do is to do everything within its power, not by coercing, but by making sure that what it has promised to workers is given to them. Like I said before, if the government can no longer implement what they have agreed, they should be humble enough. The government should be humble enough to say, please, I signed this thing before. Yes, I know. But that time I was thinking that I would be able to meet up. But as it stands, it seems
give me more time.
It seems I will not be able to meet up. So now, let us rejig the agreement. Instead of giving you 35,000 naira wage award, can I give you 15,000? Instead of telling you that the Port Harcourt refinery will work in 6 months, can I shift it to 1 year? You have that discussion with labor. If they are okay with it, they can agree with you, and on that basis of agreement with you, they will go back to work. But if you coerce them to go back to work, the chances are, it's a sign that you are not actually as a government, you are not actually aware of what you are doing. No government, no parent, no father, no mother, no establishment, no CEO, we want to tamper with its main source of revenue. Because once that is tampered with, every other thing about that entity will come crumbling. So federal government should do whatever that is within their power to make sure that the maritime workers don't go, not just maritime workers, all workers don't go on strike, because maritime workers are actually affiliates of NLC, so they have to also join the mother.
Yeah, because
they are committed to join the mother body. So
I envisage a very big problem if they embark on this protest, because everywhere will be shut down.
Whether they embark on the protest or not, there's already a very big problem on our hands.
Exactly.
So I think that allowing them to go on that strike will mean worsening the situation. And that will be very, very unfortunate on the part of
so in order to prevent it, they have to, do something.
In order to prevent it, you have said it before, to prevent it means
proactive measures.
Roll up your sleeves and then begin to implement what they have promised.
Yes, as simple as that. Okay, let's take another stories from the judiciary. We have the stories coming from the IPOB. The judiciary, they said IPOB questions Kano's continuous trial. The indigenous people of Biafra has rejected further court trials of his leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, insisting that he stands by the judgment of the appeal court, which ordered Kanu not to be tried anymore in any Nigerian court. A federal high court in Abuja on Monday fixed March 19, 2024 to rule on the fresh bail application filed by the embattled IPOB leader. The court also scheduled March 20 for the commencement of the resumed trial. The trial judge, Justice Binta Nyako, adjourned after listening to the argument by counsel to parties on the matter. Trial resumed on the matter on Monday after being suspended by the Court of Appeal, which discharged and acquitted Kanu in October 2022. The appellate court, however, also declared illegal and unlawful the rendition of Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria and quashed the entire terrorism charges brought against him by the federal government. But in a statement on Monday by the spokesman, Ima Powerful, the pro-Biafran group called on President Bola Tinubu to unconditionally release Kanu and other IPOB members in various detention facilities across the country. Now, the group said, recall that the Supreme Court Justice on December 15, 2023, sent the case of Kanu back to the High Court. The same High Court fixed February 8, 2024 to commence hearing on matter or matters, but on the said date, the federal government refused to appear in court. Did you listen to these stories of Nnamdi Kanu's, the IPOB is saying that they actually questioning why the trial of Nnamdi Kanu should just continue like that without ending, without going back, without going, from, they also had to question them, getting him back from Kenya to Nigeria in the name of trying him and to finding him guilty, whatever. So what do you think all this whole thing is heading to? Where do you think this whole issues are, because the IPOB has spoken amidst the economic crisis, amidst this protest that the NLC want to embark right now?
I think that it's quite unfortunate that at this point in time, we are still talking about Nnamdi Kanu's incarceration. We are still talking about the ordeal of Nnamdi Kanu. That young man has gotten a judgment before, discharging and acquitting him of all the things that was leveled against him. But federal government insisted that he must continue to stand trial. But now, let me take it from this point. It is not in doubt. It is not in doubt. It is a known fact that the problem that we're having in Nigeria today, especially in the southeastern part of Nigeria today, is traceable to the incarceration of that young man called Nnamdi Kanu. There is no doubt to that fact. And I think that if the federal government is sincere, if the federal government is committed to ensuring that there is peace, there is equity, there is justice, there is love in this country, that man Nnamdi Kanu should regain his freedom. Because Nnamdi Kanu has not been convicted of killing anybody.
Okay.
There's nobody in this country who will say that Nnamdi Kanu shot at him. There's nobody in this country who will say that members of the IPOB shot at policemen and killed them. Nobody can say that. So, labeling that IPOB organization, IPOB as a terrorist organization, ab initio was politically motivated, and it was wrong ab initio. And that may cause a lot of problem in the southeast. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is with renewed hope. He wants to give hope to every part of this country. I think that the first thing he should do is to withdraw whatever charges against this man and allow him to go. I don't know how the country can begin to heal from that singular gesture of the president. But you can, the statement from the IPOB as pushed out by a man powerful is what many of us have been talking about. Nnamdi Kanu has no reason why he should. Nnamdi Kanu's continuous trial is even in itself a disobedience to court order. It's even a disobedience to court order. So, federal government should come out clean, ensure that there is all-round peace and reconciliation, and to do that, it should be given a sense of belonging. And what I've come to agree that to do it is to let that young man go, because that young man being held is not just only him being held. A lot of people are reading a lot of meanings, and what they are reading, the meaning they are reading into his being held is also being translated into actions, into relationship with government. When you call on people to support government, support the current administration to succeed and things like that, the current administration cannot succeed if the current administration is perceived by some person to be anti some region of the nation. If the federal government is perceived to be against certain people in this country, there is no how that region will be supportive to government. if you think of Southeast, if you go to the Southeast, I keep saying that Southeast remains the most marginalized part of Nigeria. Anybody can argue it, but if you go to the Southeast, you will notice that there is no single federal government presence in the Southeast. Okay. There's nothing that is important to the federal government that is located in the Southeast. So why would it do, holding Nnamdi Kanu down is even compounding the whole issue. So on this one, I think that IPOB is in order. Federal government should discontinue the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, allow that young man to go, and then let us see how the nation can begin to...
Well, is it that they have to allow him to go now, or they have to look into the matter and know where he's guilty or not guilty, and or just to release him, as the IPOB is claiming? IPOB is saying that they should just release them, release Nnamdi Kanu.
The reason why Nnamdi Kanu should be released, in my opinion, is for the peace, unity, and security of this country. See, peace and unity and security of this country is more important than any other thing that you can think of.
Because I think I quite agree with you. Because peace is...
sorry, before you continue. And if you, like I said before, Nnamdi has no trace of having killed anybody or bombed any government office or kidnapped anybody for ransom. Yes, there could be people who do that, who do such a thing using his name. Yes, I agree. People may have done it using his name, but he cannot be equated with the bandits and the herdsmen and the kidnappers who are roaming all over the streets in Abuja, taking people at will, collecting huge amounts of ransom and things like that. Such a thing has never been attributed to Nnamdi Kanu. The only crime Nnamdi Kanu committed is that he agitated for a Biafra nation. That's the only crime he committed. Okay. And I can tell you that agitating for a nation of your own, in my own thinking, okay, far lesser crime than kidnapping people and collecting ransom, than bombing government offices, by blocking government infrastructure and taking people to hostage. As I told this is 5 years, Leah Sharif is still in custody as we're talking today. And Leah Sharif is not held in captive by IPOB or by Nnamdi Kanu. She's held in captive by some terrorists out there. And those terrorists out there, nobody has captured any of them. Nobody has put any of them in trial. So why is it that this person who said, okay, of course I have the right to say I don't want to be a Nigerian again. So if I say I don't want to be a Nigerian again, does that amount to being a terrorist?
I think
in my own thinking,
I think before we go on a break now, that the government has to do something about it, because this concerns young people. It concerns a lot of young people, and this IPOB is made up of the young stars of Nigerians. Let me just say yes, and particularly the Southeast, who are agitating for their own, to be independent. I think that's the yearning for.
And let me before going, let me also let you know, I am from Southeast.
Okay.
As a Nigerian, I feel cheated.
Oh, okay.
I feel marginalized. So that in IPOB is talking about, who is not a member of IPOB, I feel that same way. And I think that if federal government can listen to what we are saying, I've told you here before, I said there is no viable federal government establishment in the Southeast as we are talking today. Anybody can be anything in Nigeria without going to Southeast.
Okay.
And it shouldn't be that way. So it's seen as a region, a conquered region. And the people are now saying, no, we are not just a conquered region. So if you want to tell us that, if you want to say that the Southeast is not a conquered region, the way to start is to say, this young man that everybody in the South is saying, allow him to go, allow him to go. If you think that we're important, if you think that the Southeast people are important to the government of the Federation, you allow this young man to go first, and then let us see what happens.
All right. Okay. So, he's a journalist, of course, and this is his own view. He's actually trying to beg up Nigerians, the president, the government, to listen more to the IPOB play, because they said they want him to be out of the tension, that the situation is really out of hand. So now, before we continue with other stories, because when we come back, we're going to look at the economic situation. FG told to begin food importation. Once we come back, these are the stories we are going to look up to. So please go nowhere, stay
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, excursions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all your bets on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
In case you're just tuning in right now, you are watching Press Roundtable on Atlantic Television Network, and this evening we have a guest here. His name is Mr. Kingsley Ijezie Diogu. He's actually here doing justice to this program. And first of all, before we want to go into the zone, we actually look into the IPOB's complaint about Nnamdi Kanu's, the questioning why he should still be in detention. But another story is right now is economic situation. FG told to begin food importation. Now listen to the stories. The story has it that the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has asked the federal government to begin the importation of food in 2 weeks to mitigate the soaring prices of food across the country. This was disclosed by the President TUC Festus Osifo during a press conference on the economic hardship ravaging the country on Monday in Abuja. According to him, Nigerians have never witnessed this level of hardship before, even during military regimes. Other than that, the problems are not unconnected to the government's poor patronage of locally made products and services and lack of capable hands at the helm of affairs. Nigerians must live to see tomorrow before we can understand how beautiful the government policy is. The national pride of striving to achieve food sufficiency locally should be temporarily relaxed. Government at all levels should immediately purchase sufficient quantities of food items from different parts of the world and share them with vulnerable Nigerians. Did you listen to that story? It's actually because of the economic situation and where we are right now in the country, people are actually they are actually urging the federal government to begin now to import food. You know, instead of depending more on the locally made goods and then the services. So maybe this would actually help to, stop some, certain issues. Because, so what do you think about it? What do you think about it? They urging the federal government to begin to import food.
You see, as much as I feel bad,
Yes.
I feel bad that this call is coming up.
Honestly.
But where we are now, I think that food importation will also be the reason is that the immediate past administration in this country made a mistake, very terrible mistake, and that terrible mistake is that you came into government with the mindset of the fact that, oh, we are not consuming what they are producing, we are not producing, we are not consuming, therefore everything importation ban. Let us eat what to produce. But before you take such a drastic measure, you should be able to know that, one, we are talking about 200 million people. What they will eat, that's what they're talking about. There is no data under the immediate past administration saying that Nigeria consumes 10, 20, 30, 40 tons of and then 50 tons of gari, 40 tons of yam on daily basis. and our production capacity is 80 tons of rice daily, 70 tons of yam daily, 100 tons of garri daily. There is nothing like that as a statistics that was used to promulgate that law that food should be banned. And so that singular act, ushered in this hunger and hardship that we are suffering today. Those actions taken by the immediate past administration were not even, I don't want to say well thought out, they were not even thought of in the first place. They were not thought of at all. The man just went in there, and just because he had a microphone before him, he just opened his mouth and said things that are not possible. I had expected that there should have been a feasibility study.
Okay.
We should have been able to be properly informed that, see, we have capacity to produce, not even have capacity, we are currently producing 15 tons of rice, but our consumption rate every day is 30 tons. That is 50%. So we need 50% importation to augment what we have locally. You didn't think of that. Okay. You went and stopped importation. So you now leave us with 15 tons of rice as against ideal. So that is why we are where we are now. That is why you have inflation. That is why you have the dollar. That is why you have a lot of things. That is why you have insecurity. That is why you have banditry. That is why you have every other vices that you can think of in this country today. Is dependent upon the fact that there are government policies that are anti-people. There are government policies that are not favorable to the people. There are government policies that are not well thought out. And I can tell you, any policy of government that is not well thought out, the people would use such policies the way it to solve their own problem. So that is what Nigerians are doing now. Okay. So if you have any small thing, you increase the price because you know people will always buy it. So you will just increase your price anyhow. So the call by TUC for federal government to start importation of food should be a short-term measure. It should be a short-term measure, because if we consume what we produce, we are the one to benefit from it. I cannot remember the last time I ate. I cannot remember the last time I ate foreign rice.
Because if you have to look at the locally made rice now, how much is it? And now talking about importation of goods now, and they said dollar is about 1,850 naira.
There's currently, for you to bring down the price of food items, there is need for you to resume importation. If you resume importation, one, those who were in that business before will go back to business. There will be employment for them, and there will be food will be available, and what have you. Now, even if federal government is going to hearken to the voice of TUC, the federal government should do so as a temporary measure while they are opening your borders to import food. It would be drastic measures taken to ensure that local sufficiency is achieved. Okay. If you don't achieve local sufficiency, you will end up killing everything that you have worked for. So federal government should just open up the border a little bit, just like you saying, open up the border a little bit, let us solve the problem that we have right now.
Let there be a balance.
And let there be a balance. Let people have food to eat. You know, let people have food to eat. Let people have water to drink.
Because I think the Nigeria is heading into farming.
You say when you say heading, we are already there.
We are already in farming.
We are already into farming.
Because you can't even use in Nigeria right now. You can hardly use 5,000 naira to make a pot of soup.
You can. What are you going to make now? 5,000 naira is what you use to drink pap and agar in the morning for. So if you
withdraw 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira and you want to purchase, make purchases in the market, you can hardly buy anything.
For a family of 10,000 naira is money for is a meal. It's money for a meal, either breakfast or lunch or dinner. That's what you use 10,000 naira to do now. Because what are you going to buy? So we're already into farming. How much is custard of garri? The custard of garri is about 2,000, 2,200.
Exactly.
As we're talking now, and that is the commonest thing that. And is that expensive? How much is cooking gas? It's 1,500 as we're talking today. How much is a bag of rice? The cheapest you get a bag of rice in the market today is 67,000. That is the cheapest you will get a bag of rice. And the place you get that bag of rice must be a very big distributor. Today, the story broke that Nigerians, there was a stampede somewhere in Lagos. Why? Because Nigerians were dragging to buy half bag of rice at 10,000 naira. Half bag of rice at 10,000 naira. So we're already into famine. We're seriously into famine. I saw a video that earlier today, somewhere in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, where people were rushing, where you see human beings rushing into a bread factory.
Yes. And
rushing bread as if the way chickens will rush corn that is thrown outside or something like that. And I look at the video and I'm like, are you saying that these are Nigerians? Last 2 weeks, we also saw a video somewhere in Lagos where people were being flogged for them to be able to collect 100 naira loaf of bread. So we're already in that famine situation. The situation is terrible. Not just the food aspect. If you go to the pharmacy stores, maybe you have a little headache, or you go to the hospital, and you discover that the prices of drugs have skyrocketed to the point that people are now resorting to herbal treatment, herbal remedies. And I can also tell you that even the herbal remedies are now beginning to go up, because when there is high demand, the prices tend to go up. So the federal, we are in a very serious situation. And why are the drugs even expensive? The drugs are expensive because government policies have killed some of those companies that are manufacturing those drugs in Nigeria. Many of them have the shorts. The Glasgow of this world, the Hanofis of this world, they have all left Nigeria. They have located to some other place. So therefore, ordinary malaria drug that you normally buy with 1,500 naira today is about 3,500. So if you have malaria with you, if you have malaria and you don't have as much as 3,500, 5,000, you cannot.
So I think at this point that the federal government need to actually do something,
yes,
because
the call of TUC is actually in order, but it should be a temporary measure.
If nothing is done, like you just said, yeah, they have to do it temporarily, because if nothing is done, man, it's going to be a very, very sad situation here in Nigeria. But now let's finally look at this this story, education, and they said poor funding, fueling kidnapping ASU. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, Akure Zone, comprising of the leadership of academic staff members of public universities in Osun, Ondo, and Ekiti states, on Monday decried poor funding of the education sector. Addressing journalists ahead of the zonal meeting of the union held in Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State, ASU Akure Zonal Coordinator Dr. Adeola said poor funding of education was contributing to the rising wave of violent crimes, especially kidnapping in the country. Adeola, who was flanked by ASU Chairman of OAU Anthony Odigwe, Federal University of Technology Akure Pius Omogaji, Ekiti State University, and Shola Afolayan, Federal University Oyekiti Abayomi, and Federal of Medical Sciences Ondo Abraham Oladebaye also accused the federal government of reneging on its promise to discard integrated personnel payroll and information system for paying university lecturers. And he said that the government is insincere about funding education, that they are insincere because how can successive administrations arrange agreements were signed and such agreements would not be implemented? What has taken us to this particular quagmire in that is that the government failed to own up to the agreement signed with ASU. Now, at this point again, then we have to talk about the 26% budgetary allocation, which of course is the yardstick set by the UNESCO. Then if the government is sincere, definitely government will definitely know that it is the only solution to the present problem that we find ourselves in. Most of these people that are creating insecurity, the hoodlums, perhaps it was because they didn't have sufficient education. If education had been properly funded, definitely there wouldn't have been any need for agitation from members of staff, because they would have been paid. Did you get that story? They said that it's because there is a poor funding of education. It's fueling kidnapping in the country. How true do you think this is? Do you think it's true?
Well, yeah, well, to some extent, yes, it's true, but to some other extent, too, it's debatable, actually. Yeah. It's debatable, actually. But the truth is that the fact that many Nigerians are not educated is directly responsible for the kind of shenanigans we have in this country. If we have educated people, if we have acting like people who went to school, we will not have the kind of leaders we have in Nigeria today. If somebody who went to school tell me on the day of election, I will sit down in my house, I will buy fuel, I will watch film, whatever they like they should do. It's not my business. God is my provider. Jesus is my party. This one is that one. That one is that one. Talking as if he never saw the four walls of educational facility. I think that to that extent, lack of education can drive you into kidnapping, because you think that when you kidnap somebody, you can make a lot of money. Lack of education can drive you into lack of education can drive you into all sorts of social crises. In fact, it is said that the level of education, the level of development available to any nation is measured by the level of education that is accessible by its citizens. So if federal government is ready, if the state governments are ready, if the local governments are ready to turn this country for the better, they should pay attention to education. 26%, as advocated by UNESCO, should be made available, and then it should be judiciously utilized. If it is judiciously utilized, I think that all these shenanigans we have in our nation will be a thing of the past.
Yeah, I agree with you, because if they are really funding education, they are doing, especially the federal government, if they are doing what they are supposed to do, all these kidnapping issues, all these criminalities will not emerge, and it minimum, because when you look at it, if they are funding education really, truly, I think it's going to also affect the young minds, the young ones, the leaders of tomorrow. They will not even engage in all these crimes that they are actually engaging. Kidnapping, banditry, and all of those things. I think it will be reduced. So we are calling, as journalists, we are actually calling on the federal government to actually do something so that we can breathe again, so that Nigerians can breathe again, because everything is actually affecting all sectors. In all sectors, education, infrastructure, finance, economy, everywhere is touched. So we are actually begging the federal government to really do something. But this is we have come to the end of the Press Roundtable. Press Roundtable provides you with the right information on news and current affairs, and so you can stay connected on ATN socials, on Atlantic TV.net, and on Facebook you can join us on Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram you can join us on Atlantic TV Network 1. You can also watch us live on Atlantic TV Network.tv, and also on Facebook Atlantic Television Network. So this is where we have come to the end of today's program on Press Roundtable on Atlantic Television. With me, I just want to thank you so very much for coming, Mr. Kingsley Chimezie Izeju. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your presence. I also want you to come next time. So thank you so very much. You're welcome. I appreciate your presence. Thank you. Okay, remember that at 8 o'clock we shall be coming up with Let's Talk on Atlantic Television Network. And also at 9 o'clock we shall be bringing to you the global news. My name is Angel. Thanking you so very much for watching. You can also stay connected with me on Angelic Angel on the Facebook, on the social media. Just type Angelic Angel and join Atlantic Television. We are here to give you the best. Good night.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending